We have this beautiful message of hope. We need to go to the highways and byways and the hedges, right? We need to go and tell the world that Jesus Christ is coming soon. But in order for us to do this, we first have to experience Christ, our righteousness, in our lives. And secondly, we must be healthy. So this is the angle that my topic will be today. It will be about going into the highways and byways and hedges with this gospel of health, hope, and healing. And if you're familiar with the Seventh-day Adventist faith and history, the message of Christ our righteousness, the Sabbath, and health reform were tied hand in hand because our health helps us in our spiritual discernment and affects us in our mental clarity. And now, hundreds of years later, scientists and scientific studies have shown that the Adventist lifestyle can help reduce the risk of cancer by 30%. And Adventists have longer lifespans than any other denomination. So if we have this beautiful message that can help reduce diseases in our population, in our states, then shouldn't we be wanting to spread it and share it? What is the purpose of being healthy? What is the purpose of having this health message? Well, there's a statement that says the light that God has given on health reform is for our salvation and the salvation of the world. So this message is not to be hidden under a bushel. It's supposed to be spread. It's supposed to help humanity. And time is running short. We are living in the last days, and we know that diseases and pestilences are on the rise. So we need this message more and more as time continues to go down. And the Bible, of course, has a beautiful example of how important the health message is. In 3 John chapter 2, it says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospereth." So very tightly connected to our spiritual health is our physical health and mental clarity. So this is wonderful news because the Lord wants us to be healthy, to enjoy the best health, the best vitality. So yes, you may be saying, we are living in a world that's tainted with sin. The air we breathe is polluted. The water we drink is full of toxins. And even the Bible says in Romans chapter 8:22 that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain. So what are we to say? Shall we just give up and eat whatever we want? Eat, drink, and be merry? No, the Lord has given us health laws and information for us to incorporate in ways to heal our bodies so that we don't have to go through the process of disease and suffering. But what's surprising is that the southern states, which is also called the Bible Belt in the United States, is one of the sickest. It has the most diseases. In fact, it's one of the unhealthiest parts of the United States. Alabama has the third highest risk of heart disease in all America. Tennessee is ranked number 6. Georgia is 15th. North Carolina actually is doing pretty well. Maybe it's the mountain air. But all of this to say that the Christian state is well known for what kind of diet? Meat and potatoes. And in fact, it's not just any potatoes. It's fried potatoes, right? Everything has to be fried in the South. So The Adventist health message that originated in the 1800s put Christians back on the map as having not only the privilege, but also the duty to be healthy, because we owe it to our Creator. You see, when we go back to creation, when we go back to Genesis and the Garden of Eden, and we learn about the Sabbath, we also learn about health. We learn about the original prescribed diet. We learn about the importance of the family unit. So the Lord wants us to be healthy individually and as a family. Now, our opening Bible text said, "Why do you spend money on things that satisfy not?" Why do you spend money on things that are not healthy? So just to bring it into perspective, let's see how much Americans spend on junk food. The average American spends $1,200 annually on fast food alone. The average household spends about 10% of their annual income on fast food, going through the drive-thru. On any given night, 103 million Americans are eating fast food. That's almost a third of our population. And guess what is the most popular restaurant in the world? Any guesses? Mickey D's, McDonald's. It actually, people spend globally, worldwide, $130 billion on McDonald's. Now, the fact that humanity can survive and thrive and still exist with this polluted diet just reflects the beauty of how we were created on a structural, biological level. So I'd like for us to learn a little bit about how our cells, the building blocks of our body, actually work for us. We are made up of 37 trillion cells. From our brain to our heart, to our liver, to our intestines and skin, we are a cellular, artistic array of function and metabolism. And what's interesting is that every cell is different. They have different sizes, different shapes, and different functions. For example, if you look at the size of the liver cell or red blood cell, they will differ in sizes. If you look at a cell, the cross-section of a cell, it will look like a roller coaster, a theme park. There are slides, there are go-karts. It just looks like a really busy place, and that's what it is. It is like a city. In our cells, we have different organelles that help us, that contain our DNA, that produce energy, that take away the waste and the garbage, and that protect our cells inside. So, everything is linked together like a city. If you would imagine, just for example, if your city would go for 1 day or 1 week without food, without gas stations, without hospitals, without sanitation, what would happen to that city? It would pretty much stop functioning, wouldn't it? Well, that is exactly what happens when diseases occur in the body. It is a matter of imbalance in the ways that our cells function, the way that cells communicate, the way that energy is formed, protein and sugar is metabolized. And this imbalance causes massive inflammation in our bodies. Now, if we lose our ability to function properly, our cells have messages that trigger the cell to self-destruct. This is called cell-programmed death, called apoptosis. So every single one of our cells has a certain amount of time it can replicate to make healthy cells and healthy progeny of cells. When the DNA is shortened, then a message is sent, we must self-destruct, we are no longer viable. If we reproduce the cell, it will be dangerous and unhealthy. But when our cells are not able to communicate, when our cells are no longer full of trash and inflammation, those messages stop functioning, and cancer is the end result. Cancer is the uncontrolled replication of a mutated cell that is not self-destructing as it should be, and thus it starts to spread and take over and malfunction. So we see that accumulation of toxic byproducts is what we're going to talk about today. Because you see, inflammation is the root of all diseases. Pain, fatigue, diabetes, hypertension, cardiac disease, weight gain, and low immune system is all a result of inflammation. To better understand how inflammation can wreak havoc in our bodies, let's take a look at a real-life event. On November 8th, 2018, in Wine Country, California, a fire ignited one morning, and after 2 weeks, it would be known as the worst fire in Californian history and the 6th worst fire in American history. This inferno ended up taking 85 lives. It burned through 18,000 homes and structures and devastated more than 150 acres. It caused $16 billion in damage. And why was it able to spread so rapidly? Well, it just so happened that that fall, that part of California was going through a severe drought. They only received 1/7 inch of rain that fall. And just at that time, a strong wind started to pass through. And in the line of that perfect storm, sparks from an old battered electrical transmission line that was ignored by the electrical companies sparked a flame and was spread at fast pace. In fact, it's spreading so fast, about 120 yards per minute. That's 360 feet per minute. So what helped to calm this fire in California? Well, it sure wasn't the 5,000 firefighters that were risking their lives. It was the first rainfall of the season. That's what finally helped contain the flames and prevented its rapid spread. So in this experience, we learn what are the key ingredients to causing disease in our body. The drought is called dehydration. Chronic dehydration is one of the worst things that you can do to your body. It causes sluggish circulation and improper balance of spread of your nutrients. The second ingredient to this inferno was the wave of uncontrolled winds. These are in our bodies called free radicals. Free radicals are chemical substances that can spread through our bodies and damage our cells. And if we're dehydrated and we have these free radicals gushing through our bodies, then we will start to have some signs. some symptoms. And if we ignore these signs and symptoms like the electrical company did, then an inferno will occur and fire will spread through our bodies. Inflammation will take over our organs and will take over our whole body. So how do we know that inflammation is the cause of all diseases? Because we have a microscope. And the microscope helps us to visualize the tiny little cells that are too small to be seen by the naked eye. And when we look in a body, let's say a person who just had an infection, a viral infection, maybe a respiratory infection like COVID, inflammation is present in a cellular level through the presence of T cells, natural killer cells, and there are substances called cytokines. And if we look at our blood at a microscopic levels, we will have a surge of cytokines in our bodies, which means there's inflammation. It's appropriate, especially if you have a viral infection. But how about if you have chronic inflammation and inflammatory cells in your bones? What happens then? It is the cause of rheumatoid arthritis. If you have rheumatoid arthritis, these natural killer cells and cytokines are prevalent in the fluids between your joints. How about if you just have chronic migraines? That too has been proven to be a cause of chronic inflammation in our blood. How about heart disease and arterial atherosclerosis that causes plaque formation? What happens then? Guess what? Same thing, inflammation in the arteries. You see, scientists try to form it and give every single symptom a different name. But when it all boils down, it's called inflammation. So what are some signs that your body or my body is going through chronic, uncontrolled, smoldering inflammation? Number one, chronic fatigue. Waking up tired, trudging along life tired, sleeping, exhausted, waking up tired. This is a sign that your body is not regenerating after sleep. This is a sign that your body is fighting in the background. There's an inferno, there's an inflammation. There are sometimes visual signs on our skin, like skin rashes, dry, itchy, scaly rashes like psoriasis, eczema. Maybe it's just a crack in your skin that won't go away. Number three, chronic joint stiffness, muscle stiffness. You know that feeling sometimes when you've been in a sitting position for a really, really long time? Well, if this happens all the time, you wake up stiff, you stand up stiff, every time you move, you're stiff. That's a sign there's inflammation. Now there's one other sign that we sometimes overlook because it really doesn't bother us. It's abdominal fat. We chalk it up to aging. We chalk it up to the way that we are just genetically predisposed from our families. But weight gain in our abdomen is a sign of imbalance, inflammation, that our body is not able to metabolize the calories that it should. So it's adding on. Gut inflammation is another very common form I see quite often. Acid reflux, abdominal cramping, food allergies, irritable bowel syndromes. This is very common, and this is another sign of inflammation in our intestines. Another sign is mood and memory problems. You just can't recall things. You can't remember things. Your anxiety level is always on max. How about difficulty sleeping? That's just a sign that your body can't shut down. There's an inflammatory pathway that keeps triggering your body, putting it under stress, causing you to not be able to sleep. Now, very few of us will experience all of these symptoms all at once. Most of us, it'll be one subtle symptom here and there, one organ at a time. And when that organ cries out for help, it's going to give us a sign where we are the most acidic, what organ is the weakest, and the organ that receives the least oxygen, and thus toxic buildups are accumulating in that one organ. But why would our organs not have enough oxygen if we're breathing properly? Well, many of us don't even breathe properly. Our posture is slouched. We sit down a lot in our computers and sedentary lifestyle. But there is something else that can rob our bodies from oxygen. These substances are called free radicals. Free radicals are objects that our body will produce. They are unstable molecules. You see, the molecule that is stable has a complete paired electrons. Free radicals has one unpaired electron, and it's going to look for its partner. It's going to look for a mate. And what does it do? It doesn't care where it gets its electron. It's going to attack your tissues because that's the most stable electron that it can find. And so the thief takes our oxygen from our body, and that results in lack of energy, our DNA aging. And if you can just think about, even when we cook, it can be the healthiest meal, but we will have scraps build up, right? We will have to take out the trash. We will have to clean out the kitchen. So in our bodies, your daily wear and tear will cause these scraps, these toxins, and free radicals to accumulate. And we need to provide an avenue for their release. What is that avenue? What organs are essential to detoxifying our bodies? Number one, our liver. Our liver is the number one organ that helps to break down toxins in our bodies. And number two is our intestines. Our intestine is where the toxins are flushed out after they've been broken down by the liver. But what if our liver has accumulated fats and sugars? Can our liver break down these toxins? No. If you can just imagine, alcohol is one of the most common recreative drugs used. Our liver has to protect our brain from the influence of alcohol. So the liver quickly provides enzymes to break down the alcohol in order for it not to reach a toxic level to our brain. When it becomes toxic, what happens to the brain? It slows down. It stops functioning. Our ability to think and move is off balance. That's one example of how toxins, just from daily exposures to X-rays, radiation, ozone, cigarette smoke, whether it's first or second hand, the industrial chemicals that are used to produce all of these luxuries that we're sitting on and walking on, everything from our food preservatives and saturated fats, trans fats, the fried food and highly processed foods, all of these are accumulating in our liver, making it harder and harder for your body to remove the toxic waste and break it down. So what do we need? Well, thankfully, we were created wonderfully and thoughtfully, and the Lord has made it possible for our bodies to use a substance called antioxidants. These antioxidants are also chemicals that are found naturally in plants and herbs, and they have extra electrons. Now, this extra electron on the antioxidants finds this unpaired free radical ready to destroy, and it doesn't like it. So it gives that free radical one of its electrons. Now it stabilizes the free radical, and your tissues are saved. So antioxidants are like nature's off switch, and it kind of helps to halt the accumulation of inflammation in our bodies. Now, how many of you want to know what are high antioxidant substances and decrease free radicals? I want to know this. So I'm going to just go through 5 spices that are therapeutic, medicinal, and should be in all of our homes and hopefully our dishes. Number 1 is ginger. Number 2 is turmeric. Number 3, cloves. Number 4, cinnamon. And number 5, rosemary. Ginger, turmeric, or otherwise known as curcumin. Cloves. Cloves is, and I'll go over each one. Cloves, cinnamon, and rosemary. Now, ginger has a vast array. Its ability to decrease inflammation at a cellular DNA level. It actually sends signals to our nucleus and helps to stimulate ways to decrease inflammation and decrease fat in our body. It also helps to regulate sugar. Our body doesn't like to have constant high sugar. The common practice of many is to eat and graze all day long. Many meals throughout the day is a source of inflammation. Why is it? Because we're constantly raising our glucose level. We're constantly in a state of high sugar, and our bodies and our blood does not want that. It's constantly needing to remove sugar, and guess where it goes? Where does that sugar go to get packed? In our liver. That's right. Now, turmeric is also wonderful at improving insulin and glucose levels, and it has the ability to attack those free radicals. So it attaches to them, neutralizes them, and our liver is able to recognize and remove it from our bodies. Cloves come from the clove tree. It's a little flower bud, and this is an evergreen. This also is very high in antioxidants. It helps to stimulate the liver. The liver pathways, we have 2 detoxification pathways in our liver, path 1 and pathway 2. Now, all of these pathways require specific vitamins and minerals. B complex vitamins, magnesium, zinc, vitamin C. Do these sound familiar? These are well-known vitamins that we should all be purposefully making sure that we eat plenty of. And if our immune system is not responding to cloves and turmeric and ginger, then we have another deficiency. Deficiencies of vitamins, of nutrients. And there are definitely ways that you can check those deficiencies through the blood. Cinnamon is known as the eternal tree of tropical medicine. It's been used for centuries all over continents. In China, in Egypt, we know that cinnamon is a great way to help improve our body's ability to recognize sugar, to remove it, utilize it, and to also improve circulation, heart function, and regulate blood pressure and cholesterol. Now, how about rosemary? Rosemary has also been used from ancient Greek scholars. They were actually used as sprigs around the head. They were used to improve concentration and focus. It has more antioxidants than vitamin E. And you and I can enjoy a nice rosemary tea by drying some sprigs of rosemary, placing it in some hot water, adding some lemon, and it's a great way to improve anxiety, stress, memory, and concentration. And if you're like me, you won't go anywhere without some rosemary essential oils. And that is because it's so helpful topically as well as internally. Now, besides these spices, there are fruits and vegetables that are high in antioxidants. And guess what colors those foods have? They tend to have bright colors, colorful blues and reds and oranges. They're not just brown and floppy. They're vibrant green. They're very attractive. And this is the type of nutrients that we should incorporate in all of our meals. Blueberries, kale, carrots, all of these fruits are so high in antioxidants, and there's just ways that you can go through courses of juicing, and this just kind of, for short periods of time, helps to bombard your body with great antioxidants, boosts your liver, and your body is healthy. Now, what else can we do for a cellular revival? What else can we do to regenerate our cells and reinstate proper functionality? We can stress our bodies at a healthy level. Did you know that there is healthy stressors out there? In medicine and the medical field, this term is called hormesis. Hormesis is a controlled stress placed on the body in a very controlled setting in a very short period of time that is beneficial to the body. And why is it beneficial? You see, it's a shock. It's a shock to the body, to our metabolism, to our cells. And all of a sudden, our cell membranes, which are just used to trugging along the usual way, all of a sudden they have to adapt. They have to improve their flexibility. And this causes a way to improve our antioxidant propensities. It helps to improve the way that we use our calories, digest, and it really helps with our world in which we live in, because let's face it, we are living in a world of caloric excess. There is food at our fingertips all the time. We don't have to hunt for it. We don't have to go find it. We don't have to go pick it up. We are sitting at our table, walking to a grocery store, and eating all we want. And what happens? All the time, our body has to metabolize and process the food. Free radicals are produced, and they just accumulate because there's no way out. So we need these healthy stressors. And there's a big movement out there. Some of the smartest and wealthiest people out there are using hormesis as a way to biohack their genetics in order to improve their longevity. Now, as Christians, shouldn't we be at the forefront of wanting to improve our vitality, vibrancy, and longevity? None of us are going to live forever, we know that. And we're not in control over when we are born, neither when we die. But we should have it in our desire to live the best that we can as many days that the Lord has given us. So we should investigate what are these types of healthy stressors on our body that help to regenerate, to revive at a cellular level. Number 1, heat baths and saunas. Now many of us know that heat baths are great when we have a cold or when we have a sickness and, when we're coughing or stuffed up. But there are several studies that show that habitual increase of your body temperature through hot baths, showers, or steam saunas, increasing our body temperature above 102 is a way to improve balance. How does it do that? Well, in a study over a 3-week period of time on diabetics, they all underwent heat baths for 3 weeks, and at the end of the treatments, every single one of them had lower sugar levels, improved hemoglobin A1Cs. And for those of you who don't know, that is a 3-month average of your sugar, and it usually takes 3 months to bring it down with medications. But with high temperatures, with hot baths, it happens in 3 weeks. So the heat turns on certain protein productions, increasing your insulin receptors on the cell, thereby improving your body's ability to remove sugar from your blood. And that decreases inflammation. It improves circulation. It also helps to improve your immune system. You see, you may think that this is just one study. Let me show you another study. 80 adults, 40 males, 40 females. They underwent 7 heat baths on alternating days for about a week or so. The baths got up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit, so the water was much hotter than you're comfortable with, and the baths lasted 15 minutes. At the end of the 7 bath treatments, their finger glucose sticks showed lower glucose than prior to the 7 hot bath treatments. So you might be thinking, well, I don't have diabetes. I don't need to know about this. But like I said, many of us are eating 3 times a day. And we're constantly in a state of sugar excess. And if we're not allowing our liver to ever rest, to take a break, to eliminate some of this sugar burden, it will continue to build up as free radicals. And it might not develop diabetes in your body, but it might develop something like Alzheimer's, or it might develop something like high blood pressure or other diseases of the joints. So you see, the stress of heat brings us back to our sweet spot, exactly where we need to be, in balance. Now, if extreme heat can help our bodies, how about extreme cold? Some of us don't like the idea of cold baths, but studies have shown that exposing our bodies to short, temporarily, uncomfortably cold baths, such as 50 degrees, has benefits on our central blood pressure, the pressure in our aorta, the main artery that feeds our heart. It helps to improve elasticity, improves oxygenation, And when you couple it with hot baths, and you alternate hot baths, cold, hot, cold, this stimulates your immune system, which is a great way to help fight against viruses that are all over these days. So the best way to do this is to once every day, or maybe several times a week, incorporate really hot baths for 5 minutes or hot showers, and then alternate to the cold for 30 seconds to a minute. And do that and just experience the profound benefits, the mental clarity, and just watch to see how your sugar, your energy, and maybe even your immunity improves. Another way, another stressor that is very beneficial and sometimes doesn't come as easily for most of us, especially, like I said, in our modern easy access of fast foods and eating whenever we want. This stressor is called fasting. How many of us have heard about fasting? What is fasting? For those of you who don't know, fasting is a temporary period of time where you don't eat anything. Now, there are other variations of fasting that allow you to fast. For example, juice fasting, raw food fasting. And many of us recently have probably heard of the benefits of intermittent fasting. How many have heard of that type of fasting? Great, wonderful. Intermittent fasting. Typically, most of us fast while we sleep, right? Hence the word breakfast for the first meal of the day. It breaks our fast. But for that average person, that period of fasting is not very long. On average, it's about 10, maybe 12 hours. For some, it's even less because so many are snacking at night right before bedtime. Now, the health benefits of fasting are not as prominent in the 10 to 12 hour period. In order for fasting to be beneficial for our health, we have to surpass the 12 hour, onwards to maybe 16 hours. That's when the fasting period helps to regulate reset. Now, how does that happen? After about 12 hours, our body starts to need glucose. All right? So our sugar is low. That means that our liver, that has trapped and packaged and has all of this sugar and fat in the liver, starts to break down glycogen. And now we're using that as our energy to breathe and think and function. So how much sugar is stored up in our liver, and how many hours can we go by with that? Well, about 20 hours. After about 20 hours, when the liver has basically given all of its glycogen, our body now has to obtain glucose from elsewhere. Now the liver will start to burn fat from our abdomen and periphery throughout our body. So our body does not burn fat until over 20 hours of fasting. Even a lean, we have a lot of lean fat. Even lean persons, you won't believe it, but even a lean person has enough fat to break down that they can survive for 40 days without food. 40 days of sugar stored in our fat. So if you combine this practice of fasting with a high antioxidant diet, and maybe the lifestyle that we talked about, intermittent fasting, then we will speed up our metabolism. We will start burning some of that excess fat. We will start improving our insulin and our glucose levels, and we will eliminate some of these free radicals that are attacking our brain, that are attacking our hearts, that are attacking our joints and our skin. I'm telling you, these methods are simple. They're easy. It just takes a little bit of effort on our behalf. And if we start to do this month after month, our bodies will start to heal and to see improved clarity. Now, what else is fasting good for? Well, we know, most of us know, but let's look back at the philosophers in Greece. What did they use fasting for? Socrates, Plato, fasted for greater physical and mental clarity. Pythagoras would fast for 40 days before an exam. And he noticed that he was thinking so much clearer and quicker that he started prescribing fasting to his students before they would come to his class. Now, many of us also in our days are aware of a modern fast. It's called popularly the Daniel fast. This is where people give up meat and animal products, dairy products, processed foods, and they focus on healthy, clean eating. And there are also places in the Bible that also promote this kind of diet. The first ever diet given to man in the Garden of Eden. It was high in antioxidants. It was perfect for the newly created couple. This is truly our ideal pattern, and as we're traveling to the heavenly Eden, this should be our model. Another example of plant-based diet is when the Israelites left Egypt. God placed them on a plant-based diet as well. They had to eat manna in the wilderness as a way to escape all those free radicals that accumulated in their bodies on the Egyptian diet. This simple meal was to improve their mental clarity and to detach them from the memories of Egypt and from their idols, and now to turn their focus and their attention on the God of their fathers, on His law and His plan for their nation. Another very interesting case of a plant-based diet was a very famous Babylonian king, Nebuchadnezzar. He needed some spiritual humility and was placed on a plant-based diet. In fact, he was grass-fed for 7 years. And that was the detox that he needed to gain spiritual understanding of God's greatness and His supremacy. And our greatest example of all, Jesus Christ. He fasted for 40 days for us to give us power over our appetite. But not only that, He set an example of how we should feel in the presence of an almighty God. We in ourselves are helpless, but within the Father's plan, we are victorious. Now, through the Bible, we also have examples of high free radical diets that are not so healthy and cause diseases. Just look at Exodus 15:26, which states, "And I, the Lord, will take away all of your sicknesses and will put none of these evil diseases of Egypt if you listen to me carefully." And of course, we know that Daniel defied the Babylonian diet because it was not approved. It wasn't clean. The Lord's diet was far superior and better for him. So these diets of the Egyptians and the Babylonians, they were high in animal fats, fermented wine, and intemperance of eating. All these practices we should avoid for healthy physical and mental clarity. So the idea behind hormesis, or healthy stress, is that the exposure of our bodies to just the mundane, typical life needs a shock. It needs small doses of time periods where we are reset. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And in this case, a fast for 1 day a week will not kill you. Fasting for 16 hours a day and eating intermittently for only 8 will not kill you but make you stronger. So we need to kind of fight against the urge to float in this pool of excess and physical relaxation. And we need to really push ourselves, push our bodies to do what they were created to do, to work and function, communicate, and fight for our health. Function is a balance of order. And the bottom line is that if these stressors do not exist in our life, we will continue to experience the diseases of the earth in the last days. Do you want a cellular revival? I do. And I pray that you may choose one or more of these lifestyle changes to incorporate in your life, and may the Lord help you to be more resilient, vibrant, and spiritual as we journey our way to the heavenly Eden, is my prayer. Amen. Are there any questions? Okay, yes.
Hold on 1 second. Let me get the microphone. All of your
You talk about the ginger and cinnamon and all this clove. What about cayenne? Has cayenne any property or?
Absolutely. Cayenne is also very helpful. It helps to improve our circulation. It helps to oxygenate, and by oxygenating these areas, and it's almost like applying heat. You know, it's a localized heat application, and this helps to bring about balance. Just like one of those heat saunas, it's a localized application of heat. So an injured joint or a sprained muscle. You know, I sprained my ankle once, and I went on like this for about a week, and I was limping at work for a week. And I think I, maybe spoke with my father, and I let him know that I was having problems with this ankle.
Yeah.
And he said, "Don't you have some cayenne oil?" I said, "Of course I do." Well, I put that cayenne oil on there. It burned all day and all night, and especially after a hot shower, it burns even more. But I didn't care, because after that day of burning, I was walking as if I never had a limp. That cayenne oil was amazing, and since then, in that experience, that's another oil that I carry everywhere along with my peppermint oil.
It will not hurt the stomach to eat too much cayenne? The walls of the stomach and causing inflammation and things like that?
So cayenne is definitely can cause some sense of burning in the stomach. Some may be more sensitive than others to that burning, especially if you have underlying acidity from your diet and lifestyle. But if you can tone it down, there's a very good source called Cool Cayenne now. They have it where it really helps to reduce that burning effect. But other than that, that burning effect is healing. It's not inflammatory like your typical black pepper. If it causes burning, it really inflames your stomach lining. It's different. But the cayenne type of burning and heat is healing, and it reduces inflammation. So very, very good questions. Yes, cayenne, incorporate it in your meals, and it also helps to improve your metabolism and fat burning as well after your meals. Yes, other questions? And then we will also have a special item that we all want to hear. Brother Patrick?
Yes. Is it true that some cinnamon might be toxic?
There are different forms of cinnamon, yes. There are different species. And, I didn't have time to go into the different types of these species, But the cinnamon that normally comes in, the oils, cinnamon oil is wonderful, especially if it's organically processed and accumulated. And it's also very helpful for sugar balance. So there really isn't a toxic amount. It's very hard to overdose on cinnamon. It's just it won't be palatable. So that's the beauty of these natural medications. It's hard to overdose on. Very good question. Yes, back there.
I'd like to add about cayenne, peppermint oil, and oregano oil. These 3 oils, I can go everywhere in the world and help a lot of people with many problems. So cayenne, like she mentioned, good for pain, for infection, internal, external, cough, congestion. I have clients that cough since July till November, going to different doctors with no success, paying money for doctor visit and medication with no success. Came to my office, I gave 2 drops of cayenne oil in 2 cups of water, drank it, cough is gone, absolutely, no more cough after that. Then I have experience with somebody in Alabama, was having a lot of abdominal pain, and they have a seminar there, so then I offer cayenne oil, and all her abdominal pain is gone fast. So it's good for infection, like I said, internal, external, and cough and congestion. And peppermint oil also is very powerful for headaches, for joint pain, and also for abdominal discomfort or pain, and for all kind of other allergies. And then I have clients with COVID-19. I treat them with oregano oil, and in 3 days we're out of quarantine. And so I have doctors sending the mothers to my office buying oregano oil and black seed oil for
Inflammation.
for COVID-19. And so these 3 oils are very, very powerful, and I suggest you all have these oils in your on your pocket too, because I do have them, and every time I see somebody coughing, I just pull out my little bottle and I give them something, and the cough is gone fast.
Amen.
So I was just wondering about the application. Is the only way to put it on the skin, or do you drink it as a tea, or do you put the oil on water? How does?
Like I mentioned, for cough, these people, I put 2 drops in their 2 glasses of water, and they drink it, and cough is gone. Or, of course, the one in Alabama, she had a lot of abdominal pain, also in water, and she drank it, and pain is gone. By the time we got home, we got a message. It's amazing what happened with that cayenne oil. And then she sent her aunt from New Jersey to come here to get treatment. That's how impressive was the cayenne pepper oil. 2 drops in 2 glasses of water. So the same thing with peppermint oil. For stomach upset, you can put in water and drink it. Or for joint pain or headache, you put outside, external application. Same thing with oregano oil. Now, oregano oil may also burn your lips or skin if it's sensitive skin externally, but also internal may burn a little bit in your mouth, but it's very, very powerful in its effect. So a little bit of burning, it's worth it for the results you have in the long run.
Buenas tardes, hermana. Primeramente,
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all,
darle las gracias por esta exposición que nos ha traído acerca de salud.
I wanted to give thanks for the presentation that was presented about health.
Pero mire, yo llevo mucho tiempo escuchando que esos productos que usted mencionó,
As I've heard many times about these products that you have mentioned,
jengibre, turmeric, clavos de olor, canela y romero, que son el bálsamo perfecto.
I've heard that these products that you mentioned, they are like the perfect balm.
Pero yo quisiera que usted, como especialista, me dijera si estos productos no tienen efectos secundarios negativos, algunos de ellos.
I wanted for you to tell me about these products, if they have any side effects.
Muchas gracias.
Okay. Well, these products are highly warm, so when you take them into the body, just like cayenne pepper oil, it can definitely give you a very warming or burning sensation in the intestines. So if you have a very sensitive, already very acidic stomach, we first have to stabilize the acidity in the stomach before we put into your bodies these substances. And one of the best ways to reduce inflammation and acidity in your stomach is to eat smaller portions. Don't eat late at night, right before bedtime. Don't eat a bunch of combinations of foods that confuses your body. And you really want to incorporate the practice of not drinking liquids with your meals, because that just dilutes the enzymes in your body and your stomach's ability to digest the food. So the food ends up sitting there longer periods of time, causing acidity. So for patients who have a little bit more of a sensitive stomach, first I stabilize their intestinal tract, make sure that it's nice and calm and that it can actually take the heat of the ginger, the turmeric, the rosemary, the cayenne, the cinnamon, the oregano. And, you know, for some of us, you know, you have stomachs of steel. You know, my dad, you know, if he tells me take 3 drops of oregano and I want to get better quick, I take 10. You know, I want to push through it. I want to get over it. I want to kill whatever's in my body and move on. So we have to definitely listen to our bodies. If our body at any time is uncomfortable with heat or cold or fasting or anything, you need to kind of step back and reassess your approach. Maybe you just can't go on an intermittent fasting for 16 hours. Maybe that's too much for you. But try to increase that span of fasting by a few hours more than you normally would. And so you start to build your resiliency and your ability to deal with these healthy stressors and experience the benefits of them. So that's a very good question. Thank you. And we have another question.
Buenos días. Quiero una pregunta que nos vino a la mente a nosotros acá. Los ingredientes que usted dijo para desinflamar y demás, ¿se deben comer por separado o puede comerse con las comidas?
The items that you mentioned, can you eat them? Do you have to eat them separate, or can you mix them to your normal food?
So for maintenance and healthy metabolism, you can incorporate them in your foods. You can put them in your soups and your stews and all of your foods. But if you're going through a treatment and you want to be more aggressive, one of the best ways to assimilate this is through teas or concoctions and separately applied. But yes, if you're healthy and you just want to improve your metabolism, you can put turmeric and ginger in your recipes and it'll be that much healthier.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And we are running out of time because of lunch. Please feel free to come and ask me any questions if you have throughout the camp meeting. And until we talk again, I wish you all health and many blessings. Amen.